Thank you. Oh, there we go. Alrighty, I would like to call the meeting to order. It's 7 o'clock. This is the Litchfield Budget Committee on November 9th. And if we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was gonna be able to kick you.
They told me John wasn't coming, so I need to.
All right, so we do have a couple of people not with us tonight, so this is the full group tonight. There are 6 of us. Review and additions to the agenda. I'm not aware of any changes, although I guess under member input miscellaneous business, I do want to just talk a little bit about how we're going to do things when we meet again on November 30th. So if you want to add a discussion there, that's the only thing that I am aware of. We do have, oh, you know what, I skipped right over public input. We do have a full audience, so in case anybody wants to say anything ahead of tonight's meeting, we'll let anybody? Going once, going twice? Okay, going 3 times. We do not have a set of minutes from last week, however, we do have an outstanding set of minutes from October 26th. If people have had a chance to look at them and are ready to approve them.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Made and seconded. I know last week, I think Carrie had some additions to it.
Yes, I made those
Or some wording changes.
Excellent.
And I know that I had taken a look at it and everything, all the motions and amounts verified with my notes. So if there's no further discussions, all those in favor of the minutes from October 26th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay. Those are all set. Correspondence. One thing I did want to bring to the committee's attention, especially where we do not have a town representative with us tonight. The town was successful in renegotiating with the police union. So there is, and it at this point still needs to be voted on by the selectmen, hopefully only as a formality on Monday night. But it looks as though it's going to have an impact of about $75,000 on the budget. So based on the changes we made and based on this new change, we're actually below the tax cap by something like, I think it was $60,000 if I remember correctly.
Vote for a warrant article.
We can, well, that includes all the warrant articles that have a, I know, I'm pretty impressed too. So we will be discussing that in December, but just, I was sent just a notice from Troy a couple of days ago that happened, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Way to go.
Thank you to the employees who are willing to reconsider that.
That makes a huge impact. And in fact, I was just looking, based on where the default stands at this point, there's only a $15,000 difference between the default and the budget that the committee has so far acted upon. So, and that is the only correspondence, other than Michelle did email everybody new and updated budget sheets. If you want paper copies, there are paper copies over there.
Where?
On that table over there, there are paper copies.
Best wishes.
Okay, where, are they next to Tina or?
On the
over
table
there.
over on the wall. Yep.
Way over there.
Table over on the wall.
What?
One of each?
There, yeah.
Also, there was
The leads, yeah.
the PowerPoint, and Holly has a handout tonight. I just shared them on the Google Drive.
Okay, so some of tonight's presentations were actually just shared on the Google Drive that we got, was it today or yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty, so then that brings us up to begin our budget review, our second half of our budget review at the school district.
Thank you very much.
So, welcome, everybody.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. I think it might be useful for Corey to give you a quick update on changes in the budget, and then we'll jump right into Dr. Childress' presentation on curriculum.
Okay, sounds good.
So as noted in the budget overview last week, there were some things that we had identified after the budget books had been printed last week before we came in. So what I've provided is a reconciliation from where the budget started last week and the additions and reductions that have taken place as a result throughout the week. I did put a budget update document together for your review that notes what each one of those items in the reconciliation are related to. One of those, and Holly can speak to it more, is we did receive the actual GMR for this year.
good.
We had budgeted initially for 5% for health and dental. Health came in at 2.1 for actual GMR, and dental came in at 2.3%. So there's going to be a reduction based on those.
What was that?
We need them negotiating the town one.
So,
Price.
For a price.
Sure, I can find an equivalent offset, don't worry.
so there's based on that, I provided those updates, and if there's any questions based on those, you can just let me know.
Okay.
And our budget right now, as it sits right now,
We are at 2.86% above last year's approved budget.
Yes, I took a quick look. It looks as though we're down a little bit from where we
From
were.
where we were last week.
Last
yeah.
week, yeah. Okay, good.
I'd like to introduce Dr. Childress. Nancy joined the team this summer, and she's our curriculum director, and being that it's her first time, she thought that she'd like a little more structured presentation. So she has a 27, no, she has, it's very brief, but I think it's concise. So Nancy, it's all yours.
Thank you. So I have a PowerPoint here, if you found it on your Google Drive. Yep, I'll start right ahead. The goal of for the curriculum budget was to keep it as level funded as possible while allowing for a gradual transformation towards proficiency-based curriculum and still providing excellent professional development. And that is a scene from the GMS opening day, which is a program that we support. It's an initiative in resiliency. So the vision of the future curriculum for Litchfield is to make Litchfield students very competitive in the world by creating an environment in which students and teachers have materials and skills to provide the following. And then I have bulleted some important keys, elements of the Litchfield curriculum in the future. Is we're going to go towards proficiency-based education, which is involving project-based learning, competency-based grading and reporting, gradual transition to digital texts and resources, increase in technology skills, one-to-one training, collaborative learning and peer sharing, peer reviews, professional development. Also training for media generalists when libraries will become learning commons. So when you see the actual budget in the next couple of slides, you'll see some of these elements in the budget. On the cover sheet, under the 2210 for improving instruction, we have conferences, travel, supplies, and publication. We kept that the same amount as this year. And textbooks new. Keep in mind that we had a $48,337 spend ahead on textbooks last spring. So the new requests were some of the highlights I have detailed. $13,901 for full-day kindergarten curriculum texts, $5,465 for GMS music. Now, the last music update was back in 2004, so I can't imagine having another purchase for that for quite some time. $3,508 for the high school international relations course. The last update was in 2000 during the Clinton-Bush transition, and a lot has happened since then for international relations. $1,512 for the CHS Computer Tech Ed. They have a dual enrollment class with Nashua Community College, and the teacher is currently teaching that with no text. LMS is increasing enrollment, or it's projected by NASDAQ, for about 10 students per grade. So we put in here the textbooks, extra costs for those. Software, we should really be putting in a 3% increase, but we kept it the same. Equipment, the IT department funds class needs through their budget, so there's nothing there. Dues and fees are kept the same. And then when we look at 2213, which is training curriculum development, we see that Object Code 272, Conference Workshop Reimbursement for Support Staff, CBA, that is kept approximately the same, but it's placed in a different line. It's placed in the correct line for staff training. It was previously in line 2900. We increased Object Code 321 contracted services by $1,000, and that's because the industry rate for a speaker is about $2,500. So this way, we could conservatively book up to 3 speakers if we need to for in-district trainings. The Object Code 650, software, again, that should have a 3% increase, but we kept it the same. And we increased Object Code 320 in-district professional development for GMS by only $100. So overall, the curriculum budget is $24,237, or 11.66 below budget. And again, keep in mind that 48,000 spend ahead last spring.
So you had mentioned the LMS increasing 10 students per grade, and the enrollment projections we got, and you did reference NASDAQ, so we usually go by.
So I can, with all due respect, I can correct that. Actually, there is not increase at each grade level. Our current grade 5 enrollment projection for next year is, I don't have the number in front of me, but I know it's in the 90-ish range. The current enrollment of the current 4th grade is around 90 students. They project a few more than that in that study. The current enrollment in grade 5, which next year is grade 6, is 80 students. They do project an increase there over the next year, but it is reduced from, the incoming 5th grade is a reduction from the current numbers. So,
Yeah.
my budget reflected that. So the projected enrollment in NASDAQ was 413 for total LMS enrollment.
Yeah, because just looking at what we got last week, the 5th grade is projected to increase by 10 students, but then there's a 30 student drop at 6th grade, a 4 student drop at 7th grade, and then an 8 student increase at 8th grade. So overall, it looks as though there's a total of a drop. So I was just curious when this was 10 students per grade increase, then do we really need those additional books if we're not really looking at an enrollment increase?
Right, we can certainly go back and refigure that. Right, Corey?
It was just the 10 students for the 5th grade is what these numbers were addressing, I believe. Not per grade level, just for the 10 additional students,
Yeah.
period.
They've been
Isn't the
It
5th
wasn't
grade class
per-
very small this year, and the 4th grade class coming up
Thank you, guys.
bigger? Isn't that?
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a 5th
I
grader,
want
so
that one.
pretty sure it's the smallest class we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, they're projected to go up by 10, right? Right now, there's 79 in 5th grade, and they're projected to be 89.
So we'll make sure
So
that
that's
that's
the
just
10.
5th grade. And
Okay, so
and
it's
some of
just
those-
one grade?
It's just the one.
Yeah.
Okay, then that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that helps me, because I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out why there was 10
Right,
at every
right.
grade. All right, anybody have any questions? So I think one of the questions we had last week was just trying to understand a difference between new textbooks in curriculum versus what the new textbooks are in the 3 schools. And for a while, it was the replacements, and they've gone back and forth between the 2 budgets. So you can just give us an idea of what's in this budget versus what's in the school's budget.
The textbook replacement has gone back to the building level, correct, Corey? It's no longer in the curriculum budget. And historically, I don't know when that took place. I don't know the rationale for taking it out. So I kind of would have to defer to.
Yeah, I'd have to do more research on when
Yeah.
that changed,
Well, it
because
just-
I'm not sure exactly
It was
when
about
that
3 years ago.
was.
Yeah, so the only new textbooks in this is just kindergarten this year.
And these,
And the
very few that I highlighted.
For the middle school.
And that's it. And also the GMS music, the international relations, computer tech ed,
Right.
dual enrollment, yeah.
okay.
So, just a question on the software line on slide 4. You had indicated there should have a 3% increase. Just curious what that means for future years. Does that mean we're going to need, are we like saving this year, but we should expect to see an increase next year?
I don't think so, because a lot of our digital resources are going to fall under textbooks, new textbooks. And the software, we're pretty well up to speed on everything. So that's why we didn't put it in.
Got it.
Same with the licenses, too. They haven't gone up that much.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You did get the enrollment projections that we just got from the New Hampshire School Board Association.
Yes.
Actually, no, you did get those.
Last
right?
week, we got the New Hampshire School Boards Association
Right.
projections,
This one, right?
yes.
It's not really New Hampshire School Board Association, it's an individual who retired from them who has done those in the past.
Forever, yeah.
Forever, and he may not be willing to do those next year in the
Okay.
future. So, and New Hampshire School Board is no longer providing that kind of data.
Okay,
So you're going to have to make a decision, the district's going to have to make a decision, whether you go with NESDEC data, which is what you had last year, or we looked at doing some internal projections, and Michelle was looking at some of the software, but it is quite pricey. And it would be, we'd have to do some work to get natality, mortality, immigration.
yeah, if we just have Excel, I know Bill Spencer and I used to do them ourselves for years, just to double check what was coming from the New Hampshire School Boards Association.
You didn't trust anybody.
There is a formula.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
mean, you
it's
could
not a hard
just-
formula. The hardest part is making sure we get accurate birth data.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You remember your health permits, immigration, emigration, and birth data, but the hardest part is your first grade, your kindergarten now.
Yep,
Everything else is cohort survival techniques.
yep.
So, I mean, you'll just have to make a decision how you want to handle that, but you probably won't have the same data you're used to. So I just want to let you know that now. And whether we do it in-house or whether we do it with NESDEC is a decision we'll make and confirm with you.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Ultimately, it
Thank
comes
you.
down to we make decisions based on projections, so get the best you can get.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, I'll do the projections next year.
We'll have Cindy and Bill
Contractor.
Spencer.
Yeah, a very nominal contract.
All right, so next is HR salaries and benefits. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you. I'm Holly Messenger, the Human Resources Director for the Litchfield School District. Thank you for having me. First, I just wanted to touch base on the Human Resources budget. We have a decrease in the Human Resources budget of $1,700. You'll see decreases in the conference and workshop line, as well as professional services. Professional services is a line that we pay our benefit strategies, which handles our FSAs and dependent care accounts. That cost has gone down. We also decreased the advertising line by $500 this year. We should have a full-time superintendent in place, so we figured we could have a little less money in that line. In the miscellaneous line, I did increase that by $200. Currently, that line has $1,000 for wellness incentives, and then I added $200 for expenses that I need to purchase different things for employees under the American with Disabilities Act. That is the overview of the Human Resources budget. Okay. Do you want me to go right into salaries and benefits?
Jump right in.
All right, the good stuff. Salaries and benefits. All right, the salary and benefits budget includes all salaries and benefits for our Litchfield School District staff. The total salaries and benefits budget is $16,817,576. Salaries makes up roughly $818,000 of that budget. The benefits cost is roughly $5 million. Our total salary and benefits budget this year, that's actually a typo, it's $188,169 at 1.13%. Now I'm going to go through and break down the salaries and benefits. So in our salaries portion of the budget, we have two contracts this year. We have the teacher's contract and the support staff contract. They're both in the second year of their contract. The teacher's contract has roughly an increase for staff of 3.9%, which is about $277,500. You will see under account 2900, last year when the contracts were passed, the total amount for salaries and benefits was stuck into that line. This year you'll actually see the increases under each employee line, as we were able to budget that through the software. The support staff contract that we are in the second year of includes paraprofessionals, administrative assistants, food service workers, custodians, and monitors. Again, this is our second year of the contract. They do not receive a step this year in their contract, but the grid actually is adjusted by about 0.04%, which is about $45,600. The non-union members, which would include SAU staff, psychologists, tutors. You will see a 3% increase for those staff. That will be, under each of those employee salary line, you see their salary increased by 3%. There is, in the budget under the 2900 line, $35,500 budgeted as a lump sum amount. This we've budgeted in previous years for the superintendent, who will then distribute raises among the administration, principals, directors, that staff. You will see we have an upcoming vacant superintendent position for July 1. We have budgeted a salary of $135,000. Health and dental benefits are about $18,000. That's budgeted for a two-person insurance plan. Additional benefits you'll also see under there: New Hampshire retirement, workers' comp, disability. It's about $30,000. So the total salary and benefits package is $183,000.
So how did we come up with the budgeted salary, the 135?
We looked at other salaries, superintendent salaries that were on the New Hampshire DOE website. So we went with districts that were comparable to us. So we do have posted for a range of 125 to 135, depending experience and education.
And how do you determine a comparable district?
We looked at districts in size that were comparable to ours.
No matter where they are in the state?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next, we have substitute salaries and long-term salaries. This year, I included a chart for you in the handout. The long-term sub-salaries are budgeted under district-wide 1,100. Those salaries, when employees are out for any type of leave and we have a long-term sub hired, you will actually see that expended there. The way that we budgeted for subs and long-term subs this year, we really looked at what we actually spent over the past 3 years and took an average to budget this year. Subs that are daily subs, such as teacher subs, para subs, we put the numbers in here for you to show actual expenditures, because when you look in the budget, they're budgeted under the regular education line under each school. However, if you look at that line, you won't see the actual spending there because it's charged, say you have a music teacher out. That sub is then charged to the music line. So this gives you, together for all the subs what we've actually cost and how we budgeted those. So Corey, the BA and I spent a lot of time this fall looking at attrition and how much money we've saved, during attrition every year. We have taken off an attrition cut right off of the top of the salary and benefits budget of $200,000, $150,000 in salaries, and $50,000 reduction from the health and dental lines.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Yep.
Just for the people who are watching at home, I'm not sure the word attrition will necessarily be understood. You might want to just quickly explain what you mean by attrition.
Absolutely. Attrition would be, so you have, different money's difference in salaries and benefits for employees. So a lot of times you have employees that are leaving, they're way at the top of the scale because, they've been here for 20 years. And you may have teachers coming in right out of college or with less experience. So attrition could be that savings or increase in money from when you have staff coming and going. A lot of times what we do see is a savings because we do have a long tenure with teachers that are here in Litchfield. So when they do leave, they are at the top of the scale. And we have gotten a lot of teachers that have had less experience, great teachers, so we've seen that savings. So what we did was we looked at averages over the past 3 years of what we've actually saved in salaries and benefits. So you will see that information. As you go through the budget, you'll see there's a line under the salaries saying allocation of attrition reduction. So Corey spent a lot of time looking at taking numbers from each of the salary lines based off a percentage of the budget.
Percentage of total budget, and then allocated across all salary and health and dental lines.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, move into benefits. New Hampshire retirement, luckily they don't have an increase until July of 2019, so there is no increase in the budget for New Hampshire retirement. Our teacher rate has remained for 2 years at 17.36%, and employees at 11.38%. Health insurance, we just received our actual rates yesterday. Our health insurance will increase. We have two different plans. One of our plans is going to go up 2%. One of our other plans is going to go up 2.1%. So you will see an additional savings in the budget for the health insurance because the original salary and benefits budget you got had an increase of 5%. Over the total budget, you will see a decrease in the health insurance line because, again, we took money out for attrition. Our union contracts, the second year of their contracts, the teachers are paying an additional 1% towards their plan, which is a 1% savings on our side, on the employer side. The support staff are paying an additional 1.5% on their side, so then that's 1.5% less on the employer side. So we actually have a savings in health insurance this year, about $7,800.
So the $7,800 is over last year or over what we got originally last week?
I looked over last year.
From last year?
Yep.
Okay. So because it was budgeted at 5%, we may see the changes in the new...
There's a reduction noted in the update. We reduced health insurance by $56,000. We reduced dental insurance by another $4,000.
Okay.
So $60,000 total.
Okay, good, thank you.
See that under the 2900 function.
dental insurance, again, Corey just said that we reduced that line. We had budgeted 5% and our actual rates for dental insurance came in at 2.3%. There's additional things that you'll see in the salary and benefits budget that are contracted. For example, 6-period classes under the LEA contract for teachers that teach an additional class on their schedule. If it was for the whole year, it would be 10% of their salary. So we budgeted $42,000, which is what we're spending this year for those classes. You'll also see information for teacher and paraprofessional grade changes. We allow teachers and paraprofessionals who have grade changes, meaning teachers for degree. If I have a bachelor's and I go to a bachelor's 15 with 15 more credits. Paraprofessionals can go from high school diploma to associate's degree. They can also go from not being certified through the Department of Ed to being a certified para. So we offer salary increases based off their negotiated salary schedules in September and February. So what I've done, we look out and ask who may have that change over the next year. Severance payouts, again, you got a new budget this week. Before the first salary and benefits budget that you had one severance payout in it. I did receive notification by November 1st for additional severance payout. So the new budget that you will have a total severance payout under salaries of $45,650. The benefits to that, which is FICA and New Hampshire retirement, is $11,272, with a total severance payout package for 2 employees to $56,922. Under the administration contract, there is a vacation buyback. Administrators are allowed to buy back vacation days and deposit that into a 403B. That you'll see budgeted for $4,000. I then noted in your handout stuff that Corey had already mentioned, things that you will see added in or decreased from the first original salary and benefits budget that you got. Again, severance. There was some information that we had mentioned last week that we noticed some information in our software that the boxes weren't checked off, which means it didn't give you the correct amount. Varsity and JV boys and girls lacrosse was added into the CHS athletics line for $8,900. And then we have the health reduction and dental reduction under the $2,900 line, $56,000 for health, $4,000 for dental. Recommended new and expanded positions. You will not see any additional positions this year in the budget. Our goal is full-day kindergarten, and as Mr. Isbicki and Mr. O'Neill mentioned last week, we look to have those positions be filled by current positions that we have in the budget. We would plan to reduce 2 LMS positions, 1 GMS position, and that would then fill the kindergarten needs. So that would be the overview of the salary and benefits budget. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
The one question that I had, and I think it's probably at the superintendent level or the school board level, is the reduction of 2 staff at LMS, the reduction of a staff member at GMS to be used towards kindergarten. Wouldn't it make more sense to actually see under kindergarten the 4 positions, to see the reduction of the 1 position, so that we can kind of see what's really planned to be budgeted? And I know the software spits out who's there today, but wouldn't it make more sense to budget for what we expect there to be next year?
I mean, we debated that. I think that we really felt at this point in time that we would just note where the positions were coming from and not lump them separately, but we certainly could do that. I think we had debated about which way we wanted to go. I don't know if it makes more sense to you. We certainly can go back and revisit that.
And I don't know if it makes more sense or not. I was just thinking, because you did take an attrition, because my guess is you're going to have staff that naturally has to leave or is planning to leave or move on or whatever. We're going to bring in staff for kindergarten that's trained in kindergarten So I would expect there to be some attrition there. So I don't know where we already took attrition, if it's important or not, but I sort of feel as though if we're talking about a kindergarten budget, and there's only two staff listed out, but we know there's going to be 4, that we should see 4, just to keep it.
Well, it's important too, so that we understand the full cost associated with it. Because even if you reallocate them, those are positions that likely should be reduced but aren't being. So even though we're not adding, we're not taking reductions we ought to be taking. So there's still a cost.
And that's the attrition piece I was trying to figure out.
No, I'm saying if we're saying that if we can reallocate 2 from GMS, well then we should be reducing 2 from GMS.
Right.
That's a non-reduction that we're not taking. That's a reduction we're not taking.
2 from LMS.
Yeah, that's too many negatives on that one.
Yeah, 2 from LMS, 1 from GMS.
Right.
And that's what I was trying to figure out.
I think we need to understand the full cost implications.
Yeah, and we have that spelled out, that they're budgeting 100 and.
Yeah, we've been very candid up front.
Yeah.
We're migrating or reassigning 2 positions from LMS and 1 position from GMS, and that would be a $250,000 reassignment. We've been very clear that we're getting $100,000 from the state as part of the funding, and we've been very clear that we've taken $150,000 out of the operational budget, and that the total cost for kindergarten is $500,000. I made that statement the very first thing I said, to try and be transparent.
No, I appreciate that. I just have a feeling that we may need to
Yeah.
make sure that's very clear because.
Yeah, because the estimate for 2 classroom teachers is 171,640. The estimate for 2 paraprofessionals was 80,000. So that's clear here, but then when you look at the budget, you don't see that in the actual budget. So that's why I'm trying to decide myself is, I guess I do think it's important to see what we're actually budgeting for in the budget and not just an estimate outside of the budget. But I'm
Just a question from an HR perspective, right?
Yep.
So if you haven't made those decisions from a personnel standpoint, that makes it pretty difficult, right? So if they haven't said X teacher and Y teacher are going to transition over, I could see that being a challenge for the district to actually put those numbers on paper and those names attached to those numbers.
Right. I would not want to put names, because I kind of was looking at, I immediately picked up there's an extra, I think it was a 2nd grade teacher, or that's not going to be needed next year. So I kind of took an average of the 2nd grade teachers and said, okay, here's an average number of salaries that, we'll just say a generic reduction. We know the 151 is the addition to kindergarten, so we should be plugging that in and making some generic reductions at LMS.
But that's not really how the school district presents their budget, though. They present their salaries and benefits with.
Who's there today?
Correct.
Right, but like you said, you can go to LMS and take 2 average staff reductions.
When
and then
we've-
put 2 average staff additions to offset.
When we've done it in the past, we've kind of taken either a master's plus 5 or whatever and reduced that, or we've come up with, like I said, an average. We have, 5 5th grade teachers and take an average and reduce one.
Please
The
go.
bottom line's not going to change, so it's just a matter of.
That's, I don't think the bottom line may not change. I mean, maybe it will, but I think that attrition's already been taken. But I just think for accuracy, if we could see, if the community takes a look at this and said, well, wait a minute, you only have 2 kindergarten teachers down there, I think they should be able to look at the budget and go, okay, there's 4 kindergarten teachers, there's the 2, paraprofessionals, there's the reduction in staff at the middle school.
Let me bring that back to the school board Wednesday. We have a
Okay.
meeting next Wednesday. Let me bring that back to them, get some direction from them also, and then we can communicate between now and our next meeting and try to make that clearer.
Okay.
We're trying to be as transparent as we can. We put everything right up front.
Absolutely.
And we're not trying to confuse anybody.
Absolutely. And that's why I said, the numbers are all there. You've absolutely given us all the numbers. I'm just trying to, if they should fit.
Yep. Okay. Let me go back to the school board and express your observations and see where we go.
Okay. Jen, did you have something else to say? Okay, I thought I saw you. All right, any other discussion on HR and salaries and benefits?
The only question I had, the lacrosse change, shouldn't it have just been a revenue adjustment?
They're going school
Was it
funded
not-
now.
Correct, but it had to be in the budget to be expended, whatever the revenue source was. Or is there an increase year over year for lacrosse of $8,900?
Oh, I see what you're saying. It should have been in last year's budget because it was offset by revenue, so,
We had this discussion with wrestling, because wrestling was always in the budget, but it was funded by the
Self-
booster club or whatever you want to
Self-funded
call it.
booster club.
Self-funded.
Right.
So, but the district had to expend the coach's salary
Only the revenue
and
effect.
everything else from an insurance and liability perspective. So I guess I'm questioning, is it a $9,000 increase?
You'll probably
And if it's
see,
not an increase, it should just be a change in the revenue
Right.
from
there's a
self-funded to tax.
there's a difference in the way that, that the self-funded programs are being handled in terms of whether or not they're seen as part of the general fund or as part of, the local grants and contributions fund, which is just the way that I'm used to accounting it. So there were things that were in the self-funded budget last year that you don't see them in the expenditure budget anymore. So you would see them in the, you would see those coaches in the, general fund budget. If that makes,
But you still have to gross appropriate that money, do you not?
for what?
For whatever lacrosse costs, whether it's in the self-funded budget or the food service budget or wherever it is, you have to gross appropriate what you expect to spend. Whether it's $10,000 on lacrosse or $100,000 for a teacher.
I think it's a difference in, because the way I've always done it when I was doing accounting over in Goffstown, it was the booster club and stuff, it was all separate in that Fund 22.
Okay.
So you wouldn't see it necessarily in the, and you would see it gross appropriated across the three funds, but not necessarily in the general fund itself.
Okay.
So,
I'm not picking, I'm. Not there.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
the rest.
You can sit right here.
Huh?
No, you gotta sit there so they can see you. We wanna make sure your kids can see you, huh?
All right,
So hopefully.
next is SAU and school board.
I provided, along with the other massive paper over here, my, the departmental budgets, for the ones that I'll be presenting, so there's 6 of them on here. I don't know if you want me to stop in between, or we just want to go through our document here.
Oh, just go through your document. So that's one of the ones we received. Yeah, which one is that?
Yeah, it's, departmental budgets FY19 proposed.
Oh,
It just lists off SAU 27, school board, transportation, and such.
So there's not a consolidated document, it's just each one individually?
It's, yeah, it's just one.
Oh, shoot. Dennis, what's that?
Are there more copies over here?
I believe so.
I think it's
Yes, there are.
FY19.
Oh, I got it.
I was gonna say, which one does it look,
I'm
what
good.
what does it look
Is it
like?
this one? Nope, that one. Okay, I got that one too.
The narrative
Oh,
document.
SAA 27, school
Yeah.
board, transportation, business, building and grounds, that one?
Yes.
Oh, look, oh, okay.
Thank you.
Got it, thank you.
I think I got it, yep.
I think that I have it. Is this? Yes, okay, I do.
Not sitting next to you again.
All right, good.
Troublemaker.
You might have the copies.
I confused you.
That's all right. I just want to make sure I had it.
I was early.
That's a budget idea.
2.5 minutes.
Put down on paper budget.
Early's right.
Right here.
Ready?
Yep.
As will be.
Start with SAU 27, an overall increase of about $4,500. This was mostly seen in professional development and travel associated with that professional development. Important to have that in there with a new superintendent coming on board, where you see them go to regional conferences and workshops and such, and in order to maintain certification and keep up with professional development. Now move down to school board. An overall decrease of $450. I believe the decrease is related to the audit fees. We're in the last year contract of our audit with Plodzik and Sanderson. At this time next year, we'll have a RFP out. We'll be looking for bidding out audit services. We might have some savings in the next couple of years as we move to a new auditor. But we do have the last year of that contract, which is FY18. Is, I believe it's $15,000 for the contract. For FY18 services, we will pay in FY19, so we have to have that final year of the contract in the budget. Transportation, daily increase, the daily rate for the buses went up $15 per per bus per day, so that's reflected in that budget. That's based on the contract. By this time next year, I believe we'll have an RFP out for the following year to see if we can find better pricing or a different company. It is challenging. A lot of companies are having a hard time finding drivers, so there's not many options out there in terms of bus services.
Yeah, I think we had to piggyback, right? That's our best bet.
Into the business office, there's a decrease to that budget, $6,200. Most of that has to do with moving away from the contract with the actuarial company that cost us about $7,000 a year to give us a large liability on our government-wide financial statements. Having discussions with the auditors, it's not really a necessary expenditure that we need to be making each year. Our financial statements will have an adverse opinion on them. However, it will not impact our ability to get lending. It will not impact our financial health. Move down to buildings and grounds. The major part in the buildings and grounds is the lease payments for the modular classroom that would go in, the setup fee that's charged by that vendor, and the setup cost for the general contractor, which I'm still waiting on a final estimate on. I'm expecting that by mid-next week to have that in to update numbers. Other than that, Dave Ross, our facilities manager, looked to really level fund and go based on 3-year average expenditures within that budget to keep it relatively consistent from year to year. And then I did provide the food service update. I provided a financial statement from June showing the fund balance. There was a reduction in that fund balance, about $26,000. Our local sales in food service is down, and that is a trend across pretty much all school districts. She's not really looking to spend too much in terms of new equipment. There's a new freezer she's looking for at GMS and some new software that will help maintain compliance with nutritional values of the food that is being served. So other than that, that budget's down about 1.3%, and that comes from local revenues. That's no impact to taxation. If there's any questions for me on those, in those areas?
Any questions? Okay.
All right.
So you hit all the last ones, huh? This is 27, school board, transportation. All right.
No.
No, not at all. Wow. Alrighty. So then moving on, again, the town was not able to have anybody here. So what I'm going to do is jump right in. What I had done, the committee talked this past spring about trying to streamline the whole budget process and not going the whole page by page and account by account and making recommendations that way, but taking a broader look. What we have to do, the form that we have to turn into the state is the MS-27, and it sort of breaks things out. I had done up, where we were last week, and now there's been changes, I had done up a template that showed the MS-27 so that we could see those, again, those broad categories. So coming back on November 30th, we would be looking at making broad changes rather than on page 5, line item, 620, whatever. So what I'm going to do, I had printed out some, and then I was going to email an electronic copy so people can have an interactive copy. I'm going to make those changes that we got tonight, and then I will email out an electronic copy so that you have a template that you can go through and look and bring to you on November 30th, because those are the areas, again, if we don't want to say we're not going to fund 5 pencils at $50 and make it broad that, we're going to take a percentage of whatever and do it that way. And if that meets with your approval, if that's what you were thinking about back in the spring,
That is a drastically improved process. to
Let's
what
hope.
we did last year. Oh, yeah, true story, true story.
Are they all set?
yes, thank
Wanna
you
go home and do
all
your homework
for coming.
Tomorrow, please feel
Yes, I-
free if you want to stay and listen. that's your choice.
There's no
but I'm-
school tomorrow, so they can stay up late.
There's no school tomorrow.
Oh, you don't have any homework assignments tonight?
See, they want to stay here.
Well, you're welcome to stay, I'm just saying, it's,
And when we come, we will meet again on November 30th, and that will be the night that we make any changes. So you're all welcome to attend, because quite often, when we get to that night, that's when we all of a sudden have some really burning questions. Oh, we don't feel that this is really, we can make a reduction here, and you might have some information that will help us make a better decision. So you're all welcome to come, or not. I mean, it's up to.
well, I think the plan would be that we would be here on the 30th. Thank you for explaining that you're going to use the MS 27 form to categorize the cuts, because that's a different format than what we've seen.
Yep.
I concur. I think it's a lot better process, and I think it's a lot more efficient, and I think it allows you folks to have your input and us to have our input. So we will, we'll be here for input and make suggestions. We would like you to also consider you could add money in the MS 27.
There is.
Doesn't always have to be your role to cut.
So in the past, and
You
last
did add
last year was,
last year.
yes,
And I'm cognizant of the fact that based on the special ed student that we confirmed we would have, you added $104,000 back into the budget, and I appreciated that. Thank you very much.
so that does happen.
I think it's a good trend. I think we're all looking for a
I wouldn't
trend
get too
line
comfortable with that.
that's positive. So this year, I'm expecting maybe 105, 106,000. Thank you very much.
So actually, one thing that just recalled, I actually asked Corey earlier about the default budget. It's still being worked on. It's going to be presented to the school board. I have asked that once it's been presented to the school board, if we could get that electronically, because I know a lot of people do use that too as sort of their guide. So just so you know expect that to come sometime before November 30th.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Anything else?
So I just have one thing, and I guess it's a comment to the community, however many people are watching. I have read via Facebook, there's a lot of feelings about full-day kindergarten, and I would just love to hear more input, whether it's on the 30th or however, whether it's communication directly to us, just as to, what the thoughts are there, because there's definitely, there are a lot of feelings out there, and it's hard to figure out what the best choice is. So I would love to welcome people's input.
Great. Yes, we do. If you go on the town website, you can find our email. If you want to hit us all up, I think it's budget committee.
Is it Bud, or is it BudCom?
It's budget committee dot. Anyways, it's on the town website. So yeah, we would welcome input or people coming to the meeting on the 30th. Anything else for member input, miscellaneous business? I think this is a record.
I'm giddy.
I'm like shocked, because especially with the school budget, which is the biggest budget in town, this has definitely been the quickest presentation that we've ever had.
Very well prepared.
So,
Can I just, Michelle, can I get a copy, either emailed or physical copy of the projection, because I was not here last week?
She was working on that
If you
nice
have-
new sheet that was like, looks like
I
last
have a
year's.
physical copy if you want it.
Oh, I don't want to take your last copy.
No, I have more.
Oh, okay. That would be awesome, thank you.
anything else
Yeah,
that?
I'd like to see the breakdown of kindergarten costs that are in the budget as they're laid out. I know we got little pieces, but, GMS is this,
Isn't that
salaries
in
and
the,
benefits.
Yeah, we
That's in there,
got.
I believe.
Last week?
But there's some in technology, there's some in
Yeah,
GMS,
there's some
there's
in
some
building and
here, there's some
grounds.
there.
We got an overview, and that had
Overview of it, and
the
there's more of a
kindergarten
detail sheet that-
broken out.
Okay,
Maybe
then I'll go
um,
back and look.
It may be that was last week, and we had some documents we handed out, and Jack, if you don't have that, we'll supply that.
It
If you
was,
don't have it in the folder, email me.
it was
Okay.
under, it's the
Michelle, did I
budget
give you an
over.
updated one today as well?
Yes,
Because I had
and
changed a couple
that's
things
in
it as
there.
well. Okay.
Okay, so the
But if the
updated.
one last week isn't, I'll put it in there. I thought I did, but
Okay,
I
because
may
we
not
did get it last week, and it was under the overview of the FY19 proposed budget. So there was a budget overview, additional notes of things that needed to change,
Go back
and
and
then
look.
there were several pages of the very specific,
I can do it right.
Oh, okay. It's there, thank you.
Yep.
I'll go back and look.
yep. And if you don't have it,
I'll let you know.
let me know.
I will. Thank you.
Okay.
Which one?
Anything else from the committee? Any public input? Is there a motion to
So
adjourn?
made.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you
2
very
weeks.
much, Budget Committee.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
And thank you, our veterans, for their service.
Absolutely.
Especially those on the committee.
Yes, we do have 2.
Cha-ching, baby. Nice job.
Dennis, I'll load that now.
Oh, into the Google Drive? Okay.
Google Drive, I'll do it now. Because I won't be in tomorrow, so.
This will give me a chance to go home and
Jim,
change those numbers
this
and
postcard also,
send it
right?
out.
There's an easy way to identify what town support is, Jen. Nice job.
It is not even 8 o'clock.
That's what I'm like, a little floored, like.
My kids aren't gonna be asleep when I get home.
Circle the block a couple times.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.